Keep my answering the phone.
No problem.
Wonder on the way.
She is.
He was so happy, though.
She can get there in time for you not to be able to come.
Was you working here yesterday?
Pardon?
He was.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Because I come back from the doctor and I think I see you.
Mr.
I know, honey, we miss you.
Mr. Joe and me and Brother Joe we out there visiting.
Roasted wiener at his car.
Oh, God. I don't know, yesterday was hot too.
Thank you, man.
And he's working on a long one.
Already.
Yeah.
Yeah, please tell him that, we miss him.
We gotta go to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, how's everything? Have you been praying?
He's over there.
Is he older or younger or?
He's probably like 64.
Oh, okay. Hello. Hey, we started here.
Yeah, it's been progressing worse and worse over the years, so that's how it's been going.
And we're all on Noah's Day.
But I did get to go down the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Oh,
So, some education.
good for you.
701.
How did it feel?
That's okay. Well, we were in Kansas.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Through Kansas. A lot of different stuff.
Well, Lewis and Clark went
A long way.
all the way to the Pacific Ocean.
It was like 3,000 miles.
Yeah. On foot.
Oh,
A lot of riding in
Clark got shot in the butt, and he had to ride laden on the canoe up a lot of the way because he was injured.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
It was funny. When we see something on this going down the road, I start reading the history about it. So that's how that came about.
Okay. Let's see. Charles, can you more prayer, please?
Yeah, sure. Let's pray, please. Excuse me. Let's pray, please. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for the beautiful day we've had. Lord, we thank you for the privilege we have this afternoon to be in your house with Christian friends and loved ones. Lord, we thank you for answering prayers on our friends. We ask you, Lord, to be with the other ones that's not able to get out, be with us. We ask you, Heavenly Father, to be with our country, our leaders. I ask you to be with the doctors and nurses that's working on this virus. But if they find a cure for it, we ask you, Heavenly Father, to be with our military and law enforcement and firemen. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Now, after all of the horrible things that we discussed in Revelation, the book is going to end on some wonderful stuff. We are at chapter 21. Trying to think of how much to go over. We've talked about the Alpha and Omega. We talked about verse 8, starting with cowardly and ending with liars. All these people will be in the second death. And then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And as I was reading this through again, I realized just how many songs and legends come from this chapter. Verse 10. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the holy city Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her brilliance was like a very costly stone, as a stone of crystal clear jasper. It had a great and high wall with 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels. And the names were written on them, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. And there were 3 gates on the east, and 3 gates on the north, and 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundation stones, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So, here they come again, the 24 elders. This is going to be a recurring thing throughout Revelation, or has been. It's going to be a recurring thing, the 24 elders. You're going to have 12 and 12. 12, the symbol of the Old Testament, which is the 12 patriarchs, and then the 12 names, the 12 apostles of the Lamb. How many apostles were there? It depends on how you count them. It could actually be 14. You have the original 12, and then Matthias, and then some people will add, and I'm not even sure whether to add Paul or not. I'm not sure whether his designation is of the 12, or he calls himself an apostle. It could be the actual meaning of the word, which is one who is sent out. So he kind of, Paul really doesn't make it very clear. You know, at one time he says, "Am I also not an apostle?" You know, could that be one of the 12? Yes. And could he be saying, "Am I also not one who is sent out in service of the gospel?" So I don't really know, but 12 is a very big deal. The 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles. So you have the sum total of all godly people represented here in this city. Now, the one who spoke with me had a gold measuring rod to measure the city, and its gates and its wall. The city is laid out as a square, and its length is as great as the width. And he measured the city with the rod, 1,500 miles. Its length and width and height are equal. 1,500 miles.
Big city.
Around each side, but 1,500 miles high as well. It's also, and he measured its wall, 72 yards, according to human measurements, which are also angelic measurements. 72 yards thick, the wall is. 1,500 miles long. 1,500 miles is about from here to where?
1,500
I should know.
over the middle of Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi or Florida.
Yeah.
Right in there.
Maybe even Arkansas. Maybe even on into Arkansas.
About 3,000 miles across the U.S., so halfway into the
About Texas then.
Arkansas land.
In Texas. At least barely in Texas. So that's pretty big. But the measurement that gets me is how high it is. I mean,
The
1,500.
King James says 144 cubits.
Yeah.
So is that what they translate to?
Are you talking about the big yards? How thick the wall is?
Yeah, the walls.
And well, it's all been, they're trying to convert it because it's all probably in leagues and stadia and, you know, all those things. But guys that know math and the Bible much more than I do, come up with 1,500 miles to 72 yards. Don and I were talking today, and we go to Richmond Hill, not here. There is a group, a large group, in fact, there's a bunch of them, but one says that heaven only has room for 144,000 people. Okay, 144,000 people. How many people live in Savannah?
Not even as big as some of our medium cities.
Savannah is kind of a smaller big city. I'm not really sure how many people live there. I'd say way less than 500,000. Probably 250,000. Savannah is not 1,500 miles wide, long, you know, and high. There's plenty of room. In fact, I think that's what's meant here. If everybody is going to heaven from Adam until now, you haven't got this city half filled yet. I mean, even with very good sized homes.
Well, the people that died before Jesus, they wouldn't go to heaven, would they? They would be in paradise, right?
No, they go to heaven.
Because they wouldn't have to pass the judgment.
Yeah, they would go. Jesus' blood covered them too. The one who lived and died in the law of Moses. Jesus' blood covered them too. Everybody's going. So, yeah, and Judaism teaches about heaven too. And it teaches of the coming of the Messiah who would lead them into heaven. So, yeah, everybody goes. I mean, even before Moses, I mean, Abraham, you know, and all of those, Joseph.
Because they had to follow the Mosaic law, which was harder to do. So would they be applied by that?
Mhm.
Or would they have to be applied by salvation? Right. So that's why I
What'd you
thought
say?
by the new law.
About the new law, I
The
mean, it was
salvation.
one way, and then after Christ came, it was another way, so
Yeah, that's
which
what
but
one would they have to
But
follow?
his blood covered them. What gets us
That's what
what gets us into heaven is the fact that we have followed God and followed God's law.
But you had to do the steps of salvation, but the people back then weren't able to do the steps of salvation.
No, but they followed God's law.
Yeah, I think they were circumcised rather than baptized. Were they baptized? I mean, they could.
No, there was a baptism in the Old Testament that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It was proselyte baptism. But did they follow the plan of salvation? Yes, they did. They followed theirs. They did what God told them to do. Our plan of salvation is we do what God told us to do, which is hear, repent. You know. Abraham lived and died before the law of Moses. Did he do what God told him to do? Did he follow God's plan? You see, heaven is not just for Christians. Heaven is for everyone who's been faithful to God. And the Jews who, under the law of Moses, who were faithful to the law of Moses, they couldn't follow our steps of plan of salvation, just as we can't follow what theirs was.
Right. That's why I thought there's a difference.
No, everybody goes to heaven. I mean, everyone who's been found faithful goes to heaven.
But nobody goes to heaven until he comes, right?
Until he returns. Right. But again, Dana, here's the problem with saying that. Yes, technically you are right so far as our perspective. But when we're talking about this, you said the word before. That doesn't exist with all of this because there's no time there.
Right.
And that's as far as I'm going to go with that because I can't even explain it because I'll understand a time. I understand a place without time. You know, none of us do. So, no, it doesn't matter what law you lived under. This is the one place.
Well, see, what confused me about it was the rich man. He was in Hades.
Right.
He was already there, and then the big gulf between.
Hades and hell are different. Paradise and heaven are different. Are Abraham's bosom, as it's talked about in
So
Hades.
Hades and heaven.
Hades is not hell completely.
It's a
Because
bad
it
place.
says death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. Okay? Hell is a much more different place. It's a much worse place than Hades. Jesus uses Hades because that's what his audience would be familiar with. We really aren't. But under Greek mythology, Hades was the brother of Zeus, but he was the lord of the underworld. Everybody who died went to Hades. That was the underworld. That's where everybody who died went. This is the impression Jesus is trying to get across. But in Hades, there's a division, the Great Gulf, that between, and I don't want to call it, the preachers always call it, that's all it's really referred to as paradise and Abraham's bosom. And then there is torment.
But they couldn't pass back and forth.
No,
Either way.
And so people die and they go to one of the two places.
That's what I was thinking.
And then
So
at
it's like
judgment,
if you die, when you die, and if you're going to hell, then you go to Hades, and then if you die and you go to hell, I mean, this is before you
okay,
return.
before judgment. When you die, you either go to paradise or torment. Because it's all really called Hades. Okay?
But I thought you slept until Jesus returned before the judgment.
Those who are, but see, here we're doing when, before, until, all this kind of stuff, because all this is going to be meaningless at the end of the world.
Because if you got to go to paradise or Hades, you would know where you were going to then. I mean, there wouldn't be no surprise. It'd be
No,
like,
there's not going to be on the day of judgment either. People are going to know whether they're going to go to hell or heaven. Yeah, they kind of sort of. In fact, it's my contention, and this comes from man that you can't, but you should know now.
Well, you say that, but I fail. I mean, I fail a lot to meet the expectations that I'm supposed to meet. I mean, I don't do it intentionally, and it's a work in progress. But there's some things that I still struggle with.
We all do.
So, but mine is pretty deep. So, I hope I do, and I have faith that I will, but there's always that chance that, I may not.
The only thing that is in doubt with anybody, the only thing is in doubt is what might happen between now and then, what decision you might have. But you should be able to know right now. But the reason that you don't is because of religion. We've made it too complicated. We do not believe, and we should not believe in the doctrine of once saved, always saved. Once you were saved, then you're always going to be saved. However, the more I read the New Testament, I don't think we've been teaching that idea better, because as well as we should have, because we should not either believe in once saved, barely saved.
well,
I mean, what you said was that you struggle, and there's things that you struggle with even now. That can be said. It may not be the same thing, so I hope it's not, but that may be said if you live that long 50 years from now. Okay? I struggle and I keep struggling, and I don't think anybody has ever died not struggling with it up until the moment they die. This is where the blood of Christ comes in. Now, what very liberal people will say is the blood of Christ covers everything no matter what. But if you're struggling or you're putting forth the effort and you're doing what you can, and I know this is kind of a trite statement today, but I don't know how to put it any other way, but I think it means much more than what the world thinks it means. If you are doing your absolute dead level best, sometimes I think we do hardly anything and say we're just doing our best. But if we're doing our dead level best to live that life, then that's where the blood of Christ comes in.
Isn't that like
Well, I
grace
know
also?
it's by the grace. I mean,
By grace.
If I go, it is definitely by his grace that he's allowed me to go.
I think that's true of all of us, yeah.
Exactly, you know, so,
And, you know, as to what the limits to that grace is, you have actually got to turn your back on.
Because I've heard people say, I read the Bible, but I really didn't understand it, but hopefully I get some points with that or something.
No. Well, see, here's where religion has messed all of us up. All these rules and all these things that you're supposed to do. Yes, there are things that you are supposed to do, and they're in there. But there's way more than that in the Testament. There's not, and I think the stuff you're supposed to do is going to take care of itself if you live the way you're supposed to live. If you let God lead you through this life and, you know, renounce everything else leading you
that's
through
where
this
my
life.
faith has been coming in, is that, you know, he's gonna pull me through this, because he knows what I deal with as far as my struggles, and, you know, I've changed my life 180 degrees, but there's still some issues that,
And there always will be. They may be different ones on down the road, but there always will be. I mean, everybody, you know, and everything that I say is going to sound so denominational because they all use it. Everybody tries and fails. I was going to say everybody makes mistakes, but everybody tries and at times fails at this Christianity stuff. That's where the grace of God comes. You come in contact with the grace of God by the trial, by the allowing, by the renouncing, by letting God lead you through this life.
You learn every time. You take something away from it that hopefully be positive.
And if you fall in one way, hopefully it won't be as easy to fall in that same way the next time that you're faced with it. I know what you're talking about, and that's an awfully difficult thing. I understand. But everybody involved says it never gets easy, but over time it gets somewhat easier.
oh yeah, it's definitely gotten easier, but there's still that underlying.
No, it's still going to be there. I don't know. Believe me, I know. It's still going to be there, and it's still going to be something you struggle with each and every day. And yet, that struggle, have you noticed, we Christians tend to make much, much worse than other struggles? Here's something. I don't know if this helps you feel, well, it ain't going to help you feel better, but other people have struggles. I'll even tell you where I was. I was in Raytown.
What about it?
Oh yeah, you know where it is. In fact, she passed where this was. She said,
I
no.
was talking to you.
There was a Holiday Inn Express. It used to be a Mark, something. It was a hotel that's a Mark, something Mark, Adams Mark. Anyway, they changed it. It's a Holiday Express now. It's the only hotel I've ever seen with a water park in the hotel. Has water slides and everything in the back of the hotel. Right, so that's where you go. I was making a joke at church, and everybody laughed except for the preacher. He's now not preaching. I said, you people, you're putting me up in a nice hotel, and it's wonderful, but in the lobby, if you sit, there's women in bikinis that walk by. That's all I said. And they laughed, but the preacher came up to me later and privately said, well, there's something you said that I want to talk to you about. So that didn't just sound very pure to me when you said that. He said, the reason I'm saying this is I know where you're coming from, because at one time I was addicted to pornography.
That's not the same thing as bikinis. No. It's not the same thing.
Well, I didn't think it was either. I didn't think I was wrong. And if I thought I was wrong, I'd tell you. I've done it before. Or I wouldn't have told you the story. But addictions come in a lot of ways. I mean, and, you know, I can't imagine anybody being addicted to pornography. You know, if you are on the internet, you've seen it. Because it has a way of sneaking in and, you know.
Put something very benign in there and it pops up.
Oh, yeah. You know where I find it the most? Where I accidentally wind up in porn? More is looking for pictures for the sermons. Oh, yeah. But if you think about it, if I thought about it ahead of time, I typed in a search for, we were talking about heaven one time, heaven on earth. You wouldn't believe what I found. You know, it's just there. So we've all, and can I imagine anybody being addicted to that? No, he says he was. But the thing is, and Dan, I'm sorry to say this, but it's the truth. If you've done something that I haven't done, it's awful. It's horrible. You're gonna split hell wide open. Ain't that term? But well, what I'm saying is, if you've done something that I haven't done, or if you're struggling with something that I don't struggle with, your struggles are way worse than mine.
Well, see, the thing
And that's not true.
Right, I see.
That's not true. Okay?
My struggles is,
Yours are
they may be different, but it's still everybody's struggle.
everybody struggles, but certain things in this life that people do, we've decided are much, much worse than the things that other people do.
I'm not worried about everybody.
I'm not either, but certain churches, and I'm sorry to say it, some among the church, the churches of Christ, will look at certain things worse than they will other things, because they do it.
Well, some people's sin is known to other people, but some people have secret sins that nobody ever knows. So people that unfortunately is out there open for everybody to see, there's a lot of people that never know what they're doing behind closed doors or whatever you want to call it.
You know, I knew a man one time who had repeatedly cheated on his wife. Asked forgiveness of it, and was forgiven. And there was a young man that came to worship services. Now, maybe they get into the sin, anything like that, because we all know it's wrong. He was homosexual, and he was struggling with that. And he was struggling with dealing with that, okay, and not practicing that. So, again, I'm not sure I can imagine that sin, or even the other one. I would never cheat on my wife, but I can't imagine either one of those. But the man cheating his wife, he said, you know, people like that don't need to be here. And I thought to myself, people like that, this is the place they need to be. If they're struggling with something like that, this is where they need to be. But for some reason, that sin, or that problem, or that struggle, or that, let's put it this way, that temptation is way worse than the temptation he was.
Both sins
Well,
are sexual.
I believe that, you know, we should let anybody into the church, and, you know, people may not agree with, you know, lifestyle of that person or whatever, but if they continue to come to church, God will take care of that.
There's the thing.
It's not our place.
There's the thing. And even if, here, what I saw, and this is my own judgment, which
But
is
that person's got to be willing to let God do it, because they're, you know,
this is what I saw it as. Here's the guy that cheated on his wife, and he kept doing it. There's the homosexual who was trying his best not to fall in that area. As far as I could see, he was better off than him. You know, that's just me though. That isn't anything either. That guy could be sincere every time he asked for forgiveness. There was.
Me and beats his wife every time. I know he's.
He says he's sorry.
He says he's sorry, but does that matter the next time he beats you?
One time a man came forward in church, not this one, obviously drunk, and said he was sorry. He was had a hangover. And he repented of it, and it did several times before. And as I was walking to the back of the church, I heard a lady say, well, I hope he's sincere this time. And I wanted to stop right there and say, sister, have you ever repented of gossiping? I hope you're sincere too. You know what I'm saying?
She probably didn't.
The
think that
thing
was
is,
wrong.
Dana, and I don't know why, and I hate this about religious people, not about religion, because God doesn't see it that way. But I hate this about religious people. If you do something that's kind of socially unacceptable by the majority of people, you're somehow way worse than the stuff that I do. If a lot of other people do it. The thing is, to get to heaven, Abraham had to do what God said. To get to heaven, the Jews under the law of Moses had to get to heaven. To get there, they had to get to heaven by doing what God said. As Christians, we get to heaven by doing what God has said. And that's how we'll be judged. That's how we will be judged. I can prove it too. Thief on the cross lived and died under the old law. And Jesus told him, today you will be with me in paradise. Now, as to which paradise are we talking about, this, that, or the other, I don't know.
Yeah,
But wherever Jesus went, that's where he was going.
that was good to
Okay.
know. I would say that.
I mean, that's, you know, Peter said that Jesus spent a few days in hell preaching to the spirits. I doubt that's what he meant. It's just the thing is, Christianity is, and religion has taught us this, a list of things you do and a list of things you don't do. Christianity is a way of life that you live, that you put into practice. It works better that way because then we don't have to worry about loopholes in the rules that we've made, right? What we have to do is look at every circumstance and everything and say, what should I do as a Christian? Sometimes the temptation is we go ahead and do it and forget to ask that. I've done that recently. But the thing is, you work on it. You live it. It's a lifestyle. Yes, there are things the Bible says for us to do, and things the Bible says that we should not do. However, those things come out of the lifestyle that we are to live. I should just say the life that we're to live, because it's not even a style. It's a life that we live. It is not a list of things that we check off. Some things check off every day. Some things check off once in a lifetime. And everywhere in between. You know, that's what I want to say about that. I mean, yeah, a lot of people say, well, I don't know if I'm going to heaven or not. I had a preacher say that one time. I said, how in the world are you telling me how to do it? If you don't know if you're doing the right thing. You know, it's not near as complicated, though, as religion is going to tell you it is. It's not an easy thing to go to heaven. It's an easy thing to know if you're going or not. That's why we, talk about the thief on the cross, we talk about the rich man Lazarus, we say, well, that's impossible because then you'd know before judgment. Well, first of all, it's very silly to use the word before in talking about the afterlife. Before, after, during, whatever. Because time doesn't exist there. I don't think there is a before, during, or after. And that's all I can say about that. So I understand. I just know it's true. The second thing is you should know now. It's not a secret. How do you find out what to do in heaven? You read the Bible. And the Bible was not written to be confusing. It was written to be understood by normal people. It should have been understood. This book we're studying now, people say I just can't understand it. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. It was written for you to understand.
After about 48 years, I finally found what I understood.
Well, there you go. It's the thing is, this book is very confusing to a lot of people, but I think, it's like the hillbilly that went to town and said, I couldn't see the town for the buildings. I don't think we can see the Bible for what everybody said about it. You know, because when you look at it and say, oh, that's what that means, and somebody says, oh, no, it doesn't. It means what our prophet or what our guy, or he said it. It's not what it means. I mean, what do you get out of this stuff? I mean, leaving that part alone. Her brilliance was like a very costly stone, as a stone of crystal clear jasper. They had a great and high wall with 12 gates, and the gates 12 angels, and the names written on them, which are the names of 12 tribes of sons of Israel. What's the impression you get from that? This is a beautiful place. And it's huge. And it's huge. And it represents the sum total of God's dealing with mankind. The 12 tribes and the 12 apostles. And then he told him how much it measured. 1,500 miles and 72 yards thick. The material of the wall was jasper, and the city was pure gold, like clear glass. What was I looking at today? There's a kind of dye that the ancients made that they added gold to it. And on one of Donna's cooking shows, she was looking at, there's something about the most expensive dessert in the world. Some sort of ice cream sundae that was had gold on it that you ate, had flecks of gold. I think it was like $1,000, you know, to eat this ice cream sundae. I wouldn't eat it, but I can't believe it's that good. Plus, have you ever put a piece of gold in your mouth? It don't taste good. I mean, I can't imagine how much it would be. And that's about as far as I'm going to say it, but I don't think you're going to keep it. Let's see. I lost my place. Okay. The city was pure gold like clear glass. The foundation stones of the city wall were adorned with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation stone was jasper. The second, sapphire. The third, chalcedony. The fourth, emerald. The fifth, sardonyx. The sixth, sardius. The seventh, chrysolite. The eighth, beryl. The ninth, topaz. The 10th, chrysoprase. The 11th, jacinth. And the 12th, amethyst. Some of those we know. Some of those stones we know. Some of them we don't anymore. I'm not sure what they refer to. However, what about these 12 foundation stones? They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl. The street of the city was pure gold, like transparent glass. There's a song we sing called Pearly White City. This is where all the words from that song come from. What do you get from all of that? I'm sure there's kind of a comparison between Rome and the church. I mean, in those days, who were the rich people in the Roman Empire, and who were the poor people? The Romans. The ones doing the persecuting were the Romans, were the rich. They had the gold, the pearls. They didn't have them this big. And they didn't pave their roads in gold, but the Christians had nothing. In fact, most of them were slaves. A big portion of them anyway were slaves. So, in the future, the table's going to be turned, right? The tables will be turned. But not only are you going to be rich like the Romans, you're going to be even richer than they ever thought about being. I saw no temple in it. This is my favorite part about it. I saw no temple in it. For the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb are its temple. And the city has no need of the sun or of the moon to shine on it. For the glory of God has illumined it, and its lamp is the Lamb. The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. In the daytime, but there will be no night there. Its gates will never be closed, and they will bring the glory and honor of the nations into it, and nothing unclean, and no one who practices abomination and lying shall ever come into it, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Now, don't have to have a sun or moon. No need for light because God is there. God is light. That's a big thing in the Psalms. If you notice when we talk in the Psalms, is calling God light. That's one of David's big things. What happens when you turn on light?
You can see.
And all the darkness runs away. It's all gone. I mean, that's a big difference. In fact, there's a big difference in and around your homes at night and during the day. Different animals, different people, different sounds. You know, it's more frightening because darkness brings about the unknown, and everybody's scared of the unknown. There is no night there. There is no night there. That song, God shall wipe away all the tears from every eye, is all from this chapter. All those things. There'll be no night there. Let's see, the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. In the daytime, for there'll be no night. Their gates will never be closed, and they will bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. The best and the most glorious and honor. Plus, that's kind of a reference to Rome. What was the big things in Rome? The big two things. Power and glory. I mean, that was Rome. Okay, they thought the wrong thing about both those words. But that was the big thing about Rome, is power and glory. So it says glory and honor here of the nations. And just by way of something that's kind of odd, remember that big list of sins before? In the 8th verse? Look at 27. And nothing unclean, and no one who practices abomination and lying. Lying is mentioned again. There's something big about lying here, isn't there? Why do you think? Years ago,
We don't trust him. Fella after he lies.
well, that's true too, but years ago, here's just something to consider. We had a policeman, a detective really, he was a drug guy. I don't think he was in the DEA, but I think he worked with them at times. Anyway, he told us some things to look for. He said, look for the kids who smoke marijuana. And some of the teachers there said, why? There's so many worse things going on that we know of, you know, so many worse drugs that kids are using. He said, because marijuana is a gateway drug. It can lead to other things. It makes it more likely to enter other things. Whether it is or not, it's not something I want to talk about tonight. We're not here for that. But if you look at lying leads to what else? You know? And plus, I believe even in the ancient world, lying was very popular, and it was done by a lot of people. If you can control lying, can you not control your access to other sinning? You know? If you can control lying, could you not control sinning in other areas too? Or would it be easier to control? Or if you worked on that, it might be impossible to do. I saw a commercial right before it came up, you've probably seen it too, where the guy was trying to swindle people. They got him at the Ring doorbell, but he had a clipboard and a lanyard. He was trying to get money out of people and he came there. He was lying. He was saying he was a representative of something. Guys, when I was younger, had the old family Bible, swindle, and drive up to your house with a beautiful Bible, to the house, somebody's lost a loved one, and they'd say, is Mr. So-and-so here? Oh, he passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry. He ordered this for his beautiful wife and found out in the newspaper. He just hadn't paid for it yet. And they pay anything, for the Bible. Well, lying, even though it's not every sin, I don't think it's even worse than or better than any other sin. But lying is kind of a gateway thing. It leads to other things.
I look at lying as stealing, because you're stealing the truth.
Yeah, and in fact, in many cases, it's worse than stealing. Because lying will give people false hope in something that is not going to happen. Lying causes a lot more trouble than stealing.
Always look at the other side of the line, hurting people, not trying to console them.
If you steal, you're taking stuff. If you're lying, you're taking people. Feelings, trust. You're messing with people. Stealing, you're just really stealing something that can be easily replaced. Lying, you're not taking anything that can be easily replaced. They're going to be difficult to replace, if not impossible. All right, let's stop here. And we'll, I don't know if we'll end Sunday morning with, I doubt it. That's a long chapter, but you're going to go into the Alpha and the Omega again. What's your invitation song? 256. All right, in a moment, we'll be singing number 256. If you stand in need, respond to Lord's invitation. We come together, we stand. As we sing.
Who at the door is standing, patiently drawing near, entrance within demanding, whose is the voice I hear? Sweetly the tones are falling, open the door for me. If thou wilt heed my calling, I will abide with thee.
Almighty God, Father of all, we thank you for this day and all its many blessings. We ask, Father, that you would forgive us when we sin, heal those that are sick and afflicted, rid our nation of this horrible pandemic that's affected us in the world, and be with us always. Please guide, guard, and direct us, Father, and please dismiss us from this place, but never from thy presence and never from thy service. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, Kim is here. She and Joe are leaving again tomorrow, maybe, to go somewhere or someday.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Okay, please continue to remember Steve. That's where they were this weekend. We will have our meeting this coming Sunday after services. Let's see, anything else we need to talk about? You know, there's a big question mark on the calendar about Super Sunday. I don't know if we'll be allowed to do it or not, but it'd be nice if we could. And also, if you didn't hear me Sunday, there's two different calendars. One's the one I make, and the other one I paid a little bit of money to advertise, and it's on Magnet. It's all the emergency numbers of Bryan County and half the year, starting in July. So, enjoy it. There are ever places to give them out for free. They make their money off the advertisement. We've got a small one, but ours is the first one. Anything else we can talk about? I did tell you that Lynn and Vicki, Lynn has decided not to have the procedure. He probably will lose the sight of one eye. And they're home now. Their address is in your online directory online. So I'm sure they would appreciate cards, letters, whatever.
Are they still in Rome?
Yes, Rome-ish, right outside of Rome. Can't remember what the town's called. All right, folks, if there's nothing else, we will see you Sunday.
Okay.
If not before.
Matt?
I wanted to ask you, did you know Crystal Lake
You're-
up there in, you're fine?
Yeah, I knew she did that. Did she go somewhere?
I was just telling you, like, I found out.
Always get grass.
I don't think she. No, but she. I
Well, most of them.
know, I think she wanted to go.
What's his name? Malachi is still in school.
Yeah, but anyway, I said she went from the heat to the freeze. I can't believe that. She said, oh, she'll probably come back.
Will you talk to her?
Oh, no, I talked to the lady at the desk. I finally got up and off and I asked, what happened to her?
Janet?
Might have been.
Janet Chavez?
Uh-huh. Oh, she is sweet too. I really, really want to thank you again for helping him,
No, that's no problem.
because I was